Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our program tonight. We are back in session. Hello and good evening, and welcome to Faith-Filled Moms, a weekly program hosted by Faith-Filled Moms. This month's topic, we are talking about childhood cancer in honor of Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, and we have invited moms to join us and tell their stories that we know will encourage and inspire you as you may be going through your own difficult season in life. So welcome. My name is Tanya Mae Event, and I'm joined by my lovely co-host and fellow Faith-Filled Moms tonight. I have my producer, Markeisha Green. Good evening, Markeisha.
Good evening.
Good evening. I have my lovely co-host, Janice Rollers, with us as well. Hi, Janice.
Hello.
And we have Shira that has battling through 8th grade math tonight.
It's okay.
Hey, Shira, so if you hear something in the background, it's okay. It's just math.
Thank you.
Just math.
Thank you so much.
It's all right.
No problem.
We got you. We got your back. We got your back, girl.
I can feel the pain. Yeah, I think I tapped out of 8th grade math. I think I was just like, talk to the teacher, stay after school. And I'm a math major. My degree's in math. And I just was like, yeah.
And you know, that coming from us, we was engineering majors, right?
Yeah. We have lots of math under our belt. It's just, you don't get
it's a whole nother bird.
Okay. Yeah. It's funny. Cassie had asked me something. She has, I don't know what math she has now. But she's like, I don't want to ask you. Every time I ask you, I end up in tears. Every single time. By the time I'm done, I'm crying.
Oh, that was me and my daughter.
That's not a good
chemistry.
testimony.
That was me and my daughter in chemistry.
No, I need that kind of honesty, so I don't feel bad by you tonight.
And I feel terrible afterwards. Like, and each time I'm like, okay, Tanya, you got it. Do not lose it. It never works. Never works. So good evening. Who is joining us tonight? Good evening, Carmen. Good evening, Carmen May is with us. And Mother Elaine, we definitely missed you last week, so welcome back. It's so good to have you back with us. And if you are on and joining us, please say hello. Let us know where you are joining us from, and let us know if you struggle with math. Are you okay helping your kids with math, or are you struggling like us and having a yell fest and going to bed feeling bad because you yelled at your child because all they wanted was some help with some math? It's okay. You're gonna be okay, Shira.
Thank you.
But Shira, we missed you last week. Yes, we missed you. You had a wonderful event last week that we told our viewers about, Runway of Dreams. And Miss Layla, we've heard Layla's story. You've been a guest on our show before. But Layla rocked the runway last week. It was so amazing. Tell us about it. Tell us about the experience, and tell us more about Runway of Dreams.
Oh my goodness, it was absolutely amazing. It was everything we could have dreamed of. So if this week I got to put up a little 8th grade math, that's okay, because last week was just phenomenal. The entire atmosphere, all of the models, all of the staff, everyone at Runway of Dreams and Gamut Management. Oh my goodness, the way that they love on the models and their families. And I mean, it was magical. Honestly, it was magical. And I just love the way like they take personal time with each of the models. So Runway of Dreams, for anyone who doesn't know, is featured in New York Fashion Week and fashion weeks all over the world, apparently, that I'm learning now. And it is exclusively a runway for models with all different kinds of disabilities, different age groups, different disabilities, different ethnicities, and everything. But the one thing that brings them all together is that they all have a diagnosed clinical disability. And so Layla was fortunate enough to be selected to join Runway of Dreams and model for Kohl's in their fashion show that closed Fashion Week up in New York last week. So it was absolutely amazing. She met some awesome people. I mean, relationships that I believe will just build. And we're just believing that this isn't a one-time deal. But we're just looking forward to what God has for her. She enjoyed herself, which was the biggest part. And of course, if you all know Layla, you know her favorite part was the glam time. So getting her makeup done, getting her hair done, that was her dream. So we just enjoyed ourselves, and it's a special thing to see other people love on your child and treat your child with so much grace and so much dignity and respect. And I just loved it. Oh my goodness. So if you haven't checked it out, please go to runwayofdreams.org. It's right there on the screen, and you'll be able to live stream this year's runway show, last year's runway show as well. I believe you can still see. You can also see it through their YouTube page, and I believe they have a Facebook page as well. But it is an awesome organization. There is an option to donate, and it's a wonderful thing to be a part of. So.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. I appreciate that. And I was just saying, I think I may have a little issue of a delay. So if you hear delay, ladies, let me know, because I feel like I was getting a little bit delayed there. But amazing. The video, I was over here cracking a tear, seeing Layla walk the runway and seeing all those models. It was truly amazing. So we're so happy. And we just wanted to say, if you would love to donate just to this wonderful organization, again, at runwayofdreams.org. There's a donate button there on that website, and you can definitely donate there. So please like and share this. If you know another mother who is going through any situation, but specifically if she is dealing, or any family that's dealing with childhood cancer, or really cancer of any kind, please invite them to join us. We have another amazing guest. If you've been with us all month, you know our moms have been wonderful. Marissa was the first week, and then Amanda last week. And we have Kaisha this week. So we're excited. And I see, I call her Patrice, is online. She said she's a math tutor, middle school math tutor. So, but she's going to be joining us next week. And we cannot wait. we cannot wait. So get with Patrice. She may be tutoring online. She might be able to hook you up, Shira. So
thank
we
you.
do math hookups still. So I'm going to say goodbye to Shira and Markeisha, and we're going to bring out our wonderful guest for tonight, Miss Kaisha Mercado. She is, I call my niece. She's my niece. So Carmen May, my sister-in-law, she is Carmen's brother's daughter. So she's been knowing me as Aunt Tanya forever, and I've been calling her and her twin sister Taisha. So hi, Taisha, if you're on. I've been calling them. I think I was probably a teenager calling them Africa and Jamaica. And I don't know why. I think I just like the way Africa and Jamaica sounded. So I would call one Africa and one Jamaica, and they knew who was who too. So, who were you? Which one were you? What did I call you?
I was Africa.
So, and they knew. I'm like, hey, Africa, hey, Jamaica. They'd be like, hey, Tanya. So welcome to our show, Kai. It's so good to have you on tonight. How you doing tonight?
I'm well. Good evening, and thank you for having me. I am well. Absolutely. On this Tuesday. Wonderful. A little tired, wonderful. But I'm doing great.
Well, just say hello to our guests. Just tell everybody a little bit about yourself, a little bit about what you do in your family, and then we'll get right into your story.
Hello, everyone. Again, I am Kaisha, aka Africa Mercado, and I am from the city of Camden, born and raised. I am an educator here in the city of Camden. I am a special education teacher at Big Picture Learning Academy, located in Camden, New Jersey. This is my first year for high school, so y'all continue to pray for me. But this is my 12th year as an educator. I am a mother of one. You will hear a lot about my daughter this evening. And that sums it up. I do a lot of other things. I am a board member.
You already say yes.
Yes, I am a board member for Boss Mentoring. It is an organization located in Camden, New Jersey. We focus on mentoring young males ages 8 through 18. Our mission is to educate and support young men of the city, again, ages 8 to 18, providing workshop, life skills, and career development through individual and group counseling. So if you want any information on how to sign up your young males for mentorship, the website is on the screen. It's info@bossmentoring.org. Again, we are located in Camden, New Jersey. Be sure to sign your babies up. Yes, and
your big fundraiser coming up, right?
Yes, this is our 7th year. Thank you.
Yes.
See, my brain is like this. This is our 7th year. We have our sneaker gala coming up. The flyer is floating around.
Fabulous event.
Yes. You don't want to miss out. I mean, if you missed out last year, I'm sorry, but please come and join us this year for our 7th year. Right now, it is the early bird special. It is going on until, I believe it's the 20th. I will double check the dates with you and give it to you by the end of tonight's show. But right now is the early bird special. The tickets are $149 right now. Get them while they're hot and come and join us for this fabulous event as we honor many organizations throughout the city.
Yes, wonderful. Yes, and I went for my first time last year. It was absolutely amazing and such a great program. And my sorors are also the founders of the organization. We're going to shout them out as well. Shout out Boss Mentoring. So just an amazing organization. So please support. Please sign your young men up for it. They truly are doing great work. So again, this is Faith-Filled Moms. We are a community of moms that provide biblical and emotional support and content to bring hope, encouragement, and inspiration to women in difficult seasons in life. And the season we're going to be talking about tonight is childhood cancer, moms that have children with childhood cancer. So I'm going to go ahead and pray, and then we're going to get right into Kaisha's story. Dear Heavenly and gracious God and Father, we thank you so much for another night, another Tuesday, another Mom's Night in that we get to just come and just talk about how good you are. Just talk about just your grace and your mercy and your kindness, God, and your faithfulness, Lord. So we just invite you in. We ask you to take full control. We ask you to show up in each of us and show up even in those that are watching, God. Open up their ears, open up their hearts and minds to hear and receive whatever it is that you have for them tonight, Lord. We just pray that you would bless all of our technology, everything, no matter on our side or anyone's watching, that it would not be interrupted, it would not be disturbed, that every word that needs to will go out and be received. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Okay, so Kaisha's story is going to be published on Faith-Filled Moms tomorrow, bright and early in the morning. So on our website is faithfulmoms.org. If you have not, please go to our website, sign up with your email address so that you will get her blog in your email first thing in the morning. You don't even have to search our website. Her blog will come right to your email first thing in the morning. So if you have not already, go to faithfulmoms.org. You'll get notices every week for each guest, what our shows are, who our guests are, and you'll also get the weekly blog. So one sign up, you'll be covered and connected for the rest of the season. And again, if you have not done so already, please invite someone. If you know someone who's struggling, going through a hard time, just need some encouragement, invite them to join us. They will not be sorry. Kaisha is about to just drop some some knowledge, some wisdom, she's amazing. And I'm just so excited to have her here. So Kaisha, I want to ask you to start off. Talk to me about what life was like for you and Anaya before the diagnosis.
Before the diagnosis, life was great. As any other first-time mom, you're super excited. I had a little girl. I got what I wanted the first time. So it was like, all about playing dress up, loving on her, trying to capture every moment. Life was sweet. I don't have any horror stories as being a first-time mom. Anaya slept through the night. It was a great pregnancy, just one minor hiccup with Anaya as far as a heart issue. But, I wasn't claiming anything. Then I was like, they told me by the time I give birth, it'll be gone. And I believe that. It didn't instill any fear in me at that moment. So I was still loving the pregnancy mode, happy, my baby girl's here with some minor, unexpectancies like an emergency C-section at the time. But other than that, it was great. Anaya hit all of her milestones early. I was super excited. She was a bubbly young lady, little girl, full of personality. And I just was super excited to see her grow. I was like, I can't wait until she get older. I want to see if she's still going to be like this bubbly personality, running around. And life before the diagnosis was easy, smooth, and great before the diagnosis.
Right. And so now we're at the point that you receive a diagnosis. It was very early in her life. So walk us through the leading up to and the diagnosis, like walk us through that whole experience.
So leading up to her diagnosis, I planned her first birthday. I did something very small, was Chuck E. Cheese. So we had her first birthday at Chuck E. Cheese, and I noticed at her birthday party, she was not herself. She was very fussy, didn't want to be bothered with anyone. Usually Anaya will go to everyone, but she was glued to my hip and her father's hip. Her eyes were extremely glassy. So after her party, when we got home, I took her temperature and she had a fever. So like any other mom, I gave her medicine just to kind of break her fever. And I knew that Monday she had a doctor's appointment, her first year checkup. Not expecting anything. We went to her first year checkup and I explained to the doctor how, she just wasn't feeling herself. And I noticed it over the weekend. They took her temperature. Her temperature was 102. So Dr. Brown, that was her pediatrician over in Voorhees. He said, go down the street to the hospital. This is when Virtual Voorhees was located on Evesham Road before they moved it. So I drove down to the hospital, still just not knowing what is happening. Like, okay, why can't we just give her Tylenol or something to like kind of break her fever? Get to the hospital. They examined Anaya, did some cultures. It came back that Anaya had RSV. As a new mom, I had no idea what RSV was. No one explained it to me. I'm just like, okay, what does that mean? After they informed me that she had RSV, the next question was Children's Hospital of Philadelphia or DuPont? Again, I'm still confused. Like, what are you talking about? So they informed me she needs to be transported immediately. And they were pressuring me to make a decision on which hospital. So in that moment, I'm like, I don't know where to go. I have no idea where DuPont is. I'll just take Children's Hospital. So they drove us over to Children's Hospital. I was unable to ride in an ambulance with Anaya. I had to follow behind the ambulance in my car. So in this moment, I'm a little nervous. Like, why are we being transported? What is so serious about RSV?
Because you don't know what RSV is. Yeah.
I have no idea. We get to Children's Hospital. They take us. We were in a seashore house. We were on the 5th floor. They take us there and they tell me that I have to be gowned up. They put my daughter in this crib. She's 1. She's fussy, crying. They put her in the crib. They put signs on the door and they tell me, RSV is contagious. It's a respiratory infection. It's basically like the flu for babies. So in that moment, I was like, oh, okay, but why? Like, what is all of this? They draped plastic over her crib. I could not hold Anaya for 2 weeks. She was hospitalized for 2 weeks. The only way I can hold my baby was putting my hands in the gloves and going inside the crib.
Wow.
So anyone that would come in and out the hospital, out the room, they had to be gowned, headgear, a mask, everything. It was almost like how we looked for the pandemic. That's how they were dressed entering the room. So they just told me like until it clears up, she will be hospitalized. So she was in CHOP for 2 weeks. We finally got discharged. I was super excited. We're now going home. But when we get home, Anaya is still not 100%. So as a mom, I'm wondering like, well, how much longer? I will call my sister and call my mom and say, well, she's still not herself. She's still a little fussy. The doctors would tell me, and my ex-husband told me, just give it time. Give it time. It's going to come back. And I'm like, all right, I'm listening to everyone else because at that time, that's my village. They have more experience than I do. So of course, I'm going to listen to someone else who is not a first-time mom. So time went on, and I noticed that Anaya just wasn't getting back to that bubbly little girl that she was. She seemed sluggish all the time and just like
So you know
low
something's
energy.
wrong. As a mom, you know something's wrong with your child.
As a mom, my antennas went up at that time. So I guess you will call it your spidey senses, your mother intuition. It was on high alert at this time. So I am literally looking at her, paying attention to every little detail. So I started documenting because I didn't know what else to do. So I guess that's that educator in me. I'm going to document, if it's not documented, it didn't happen. So I'm documenting. I'm noticing that as time go on, her gait is getting wider and wider. Anaya started walking at a very early age. Between 9.5 and 10 months, Anaya was walking. So for her gait to be so unstable and wide, I said, something is wrong. Like
3 months later, right? 3 or 4 months later.
This is we're now in the middle of February. We're going into March. And I'm like, I'm like, Anaya, get up. Like, Mom, come on, get up and walk. And every time she would try, she physically couldn't. She would fall down. So not only did I notice her gait getting wide, she favored her head to one side. So I was like, what in the world? Like, almost like it was too much weight and she couldn't hold her head up. So I made a doctor. Right. I made a doctor's appointment and they said, bring her on in. They told me like, it takes time, RSV had her down for 2 weeks. It's going to take some time for her to build up her fine motor skills and her gross motor skills. And I was like, okay, well, it's been some time. So how much longer? So now she's no longer speaking the way that she used to speak. It went all the way back to like cooing and babbling. I said, no, something is wrong. I don't know what's wrong. I don't know how to explain it, but something is off with my daughter because she's not bouncing back. And that point in life, I was not grounded the way I needed to be grounded in my faith. So in that moment, I did not think to pray. I did not think to call on my prayer warriors, my elders, and say, hey, pray. I'm just so I'm worrying. I was a worry rat. I worried. I questioned. Well, what's happening? What's wrong? I don't understand. And I look back now and say, if I would have just prayed, I would have got the answer. I let so much time lapse. I didn't have faith. My faith was gone because I was grounded in something I had no business being grounded in. So because I was grounded in something I had no business being grounded in, my daughter had to suffer slightly for me to find the correct footing and get back on my path. So time went on. Doctors was like, hey, just give it time. All I heard was just give it time from the doctors. Give it time. And I was impatient. I didn't have the time because something else was happening. I felt in that moment she didn't have time because something is wrong. Fast forward to March 14th. She was at Camden Day Nursery. She was with her teacher, Miss Ebony. I get a phone call in my classroom because I worked upstairs in a pre-K class. I get a phone call and say, Kai, something's wrong with Anaya. She's really hot. I go down to her classroom, like any other mother, how you run down the steps really fast and you skip some steps? That was me. I go in there and my daughter's having a seizure.
Wow.
So
in the room,
in the classroom, in the baby classroom, she's having a seizure. Her body was so hot to touch. All of us was like, what do we do? And I was like, I had to tap into my background knowledge from working in the group homes. I said, lay her on her side. Alyssa Wiles was the director at the time. Alyssa ran and got receiving blankets. I was like wetted. We wet a receiving blanket and wrapped it around Anaya. Alyssa called 911. I wanted to take my baby to the hospital, but because I was on a clock, we were unable to do that. The ambulance came, took her to Cooper Hospital. They told me she was fine. She only had a seizure because of a fever. And I'm saying, no, that's not right. Like, she has no history. She had a fever before and she's never had a seizure. We were sent home. The very next day, March 15th, 2011, Anaya had another seizure. This time her fever was 103. I drove her to Children's Hospital. That's the only place I knew to go back to because they took such great care of her in February. I went back. So upon my arrival, I called Children's Hospital to tell them my daughter had a seizure. We're on our way back. So they were waiting for us in the emergency room. I get to the emergency room. They take her out my hands and they perform a spinal tap on Anaya in the emergency room. They did not numb the area. They didn't sedate her. It was doctors bending my daughter over to hold her still, a 1-year-old, to give her a spinal tap to figure out why she was having seizures. And I just hear her screaming. So I just begin to cry. Again, I didn't pray. I cried. I didn't think to pray. I cried. In the midst of crying, I'm questioning. I was stuck. I didn't know what to do but to cry. I called my mom. I'm calling my family. And the only person in that moment I should have been calling on was God.
Yeah.
And he would have taken care of everything.
But that's your lesson that you had to learn.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely. It was a hard lesson, but I learned, and I'm forever grateful for the lesson that I had to endure. It's almost like how they were talking about 8th grade algebra is like, that was my 8th grade algebra lesson. I missed all the formulas. I was miscalculating. My answer was incorrect every time because the formula that is universal,
girl,
I didn't tap into.
Stop and pray. Drop, stop, and pray.
That's it. I'm trying to come up with my own formula, trying to control the situation. And my formula is not even a correct formula. My formula won't solve any problem. I will get the wrong answer every time. So in that moment, I was just stuck.
Wow. So they have Anaya, they give her a spinal tap. What actually was her diagnosis?
Anaya's diagnosis, it was like a puzzle. This was now March 15th, 2011. We did not get a diagnosis until April 1st.
Wow.
3 weeks later.
We didn't get a diagnosis until April 1st. We had to go through the process. God always tells us, go through the process. You can't skip steps. I had to go through the process. And the process was 1, her having the seizures, getting that spinal tap. They got the fluid from the spinal tap. And when you get a spinal tap, I'm not sure if many of you know, they aspirate a certain amount of fluid. And the fluid have to go off to labs to get tested. And it takes weeks for the results to come in. So some results may come in within hours. Some results may come in within days. Some results may come in within weeks. Even after getting a diagnosis, results are still going to pour in. So the first diagnosis we received for Anaya was opsoclonus myoclonus syndrome, which is ataxia, where her nerve and muscular system is just going haywire. So Anaya's eyes were flutter. They called them butterfly eyes. So her eyes were literally flutter. It reminded me of the cat clocks that used to sit on the wall and the eyes would go back and forth like this. So imagine the clock eyes going like this. Anaya's eyes were going at the speed of like 10 times that. It was nonstop. Hence why her head was always to one side. So she favored the one side. She had no control over her eyes. Her muscular system was just deteriorating. And we had no idea. So they kept us in the hospital in March just to run more tests, just to kind of figure out what everything was. And I was like, I'm missing work. I would call into the daycare, hey, I can't come in. I can't come in today. My ex-husband was a correctional officer, so it made sense for him to go to work because he was more stable than I was. And I stay at the hospital with Anaya. And also because I'm the mom, I want to stay with her and figure out what is going on. So we're in Children's Hospital every day. No matter what Anaya was going through, she still was happy. She would color. They would bring the service animals in. And Anaya was just in the best spirits ever, just looking at me like, Mom, it's okay. It's okay. And I would look at her and I would say, I couldn't cry. I couldn't cry. I cried once when I watched them do that spinal tap. But after that, I couldn't cry because I was just like, she's not crying, so I can't cry.
So walk us through the cancer diagnosis. Walk us through that actual moment that you received that diagnosis. And you mentioned earlier about your faith and how you weren't praying. I want you to talk about even that diagnosis. How did this path that you're on and this process that you're on, how did this lead you back to God?
April 1st, a swarm of doctors came into Anaya's room. And I'm like, it's too many doctors in here. What's going on? And they told me they had results back from Anaya's, her scans. They did scans, a CAT scan, an MRI, and they also had more spinal fluid. And they informed me that she was she had neuroblastoma. So I didn't know what that was. And I'm like, she has what? They repeated, she has neuroblastoma. I looked over at her dad and I'm like, say something. Like, do you know what that is? So then I asked, well, what is neuroblastoma? And they informed me it's cancer. She has a tumor. We located a tumor between her stomach, her left kidney, and parallel to her spine. And the size of her tumor, remind you, she's a 1-year-old. The size of her tumor was 2 by 4 by 10. So at the time, the doctor Dr. Jeremy Rupon, the oncologist, held up his cell phone and said, this is about the size of her tumor. So I thought it was a joke. I said, is this an April Fool's joke? They were my words to him because I honestly thought it was a joke. Like, how could that young lady in that crib who's sitting over there smiling and playing have a tumor that size in her and I, as her mother, not know it? How did I not feel the tumor if it's that big and connected to so many organs? How did her doctor miss it? This has to be a joke. What did I do wrong? Again, with the questions, what did I do wrong? I did everything right during my pregnancy. I ate right. I got proper rest. I don't smoke. I don't drink. I did everything right. How could this happen? I didn't cry. I was stuck. In that moment, I'm like, what are we going to do? April 3rd, Anaya's father was laid off from the correctional facility. That means no insurance. Again, trying to process this. How can I process my daughter losing health coverage in such a traumatizing time?
With this diagnosis, right? With this diagnosis and not having any insurance.
I can't process the fact that my daughter is diagnosed with cancer. The child, before I became a wife, I prayed for her. I always wanted to become a mother. I was told in my teen years that it was a possibility I may not be able to bear children because I had ovarian cysts. Anaya I call her my miracle baby. She's my rainbow baby. Like, God, you gave me this beautiful young lady for her to go through this. Why? So I began to question, but I didn't question to seek answers. I questioned because I was upset. I was lost. I was so lost. They told me they had to do surgery on Anaya to try to resect some of the tumor. They could not remove all of the tumor because where it was connected, she could possibly be paralyzed. She could possibly die. I didn't want neither. So I'm like, well, what are the other options? They was like, the only option you have is surgery, and then we have to do aggressive chemotherapy. I have no insurance. I said, I need to speak with someone. This is now April 3rd. They gave us time to process.
Yeah.
April 3rd, social worker. I have no insurance. He lost his job. What do I do? April 5th, they gave us a bill. $19,000. I don't have that money. What am I going to do? Again, I never turned to God. I questioned him, but I was upset.
Mm-hmm.
They told me her surgery was going to be on April 13th. That is when I said, God, I surrender. I prayed. I went home. I prayed the way that I knew how to pray, the way that I was raised to pray. I'm a member of Emmanuel Up Church. I watched Bishop Sherman Diggs. And when things was wrong, he said, come to this altar. We prayed. Wednesday night service, we prayed. We had shut-in services. We prayed. My ex-husband was Muslim. I followed the religion of Islam. I was lost. I didn't know how to pray in Arabic. I could not recite the Islamic prayer. I didn't have my sister circles to call in such a trying time to say, hey, let's gather and pray. I didn't have anyone. In that moment, I knew this is not for me. And in that moment, I said, I'm going to risk it all. I may risk my marriage. I may risk it. At that moment, I didn't care. I was to the point where I would risk it all for my daughter to be here. I took Anaya. I had left Emmanuel. I took Anaya to church. When I tell you Evangelist Carolyn Kennard, Evangelist Sharon Anfield, Evangelist Caroline Drumkel, they prayed over my daughter like no other at that altar. Before going, I had already surrendered and gave God my yes again. I said, God, listen, I don't want her to suffer. I apologize. I know what I did. I steered off my path to follow somebody else's path that was not for me. I tried to walk in somebody else's shoes and be someone that he did not create. And in the midst of me doing that, he needed to get my attention because I ignored all the other signs. He got my attention enough not to break my daughter, but to bring me back to him. Because remember, I told you, in the midst of it all, Anaya kept a smile on her face. She was happy. She wasn't any pain. She looked at me like, Mom, I'm good. So because she was so strong, I didn't have the opportunity in that moment to break, to cry. I just kept trying to process. I couldn't cry in front of her because I didn't want her to see me crying. And then when I would go home and say, you know what, I'm going to cry, I couldn't. I had to be strong to figure out how am I going to get health insurance so my daughter can get the treatment that she needs. So I'm just like, you know what? I can do all things through Christ that strengthen me. If I ain't know no other scripture, I knew Philippians 4:13. I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me. And I just had to keep telling myself that. I had to keep saying it until it resonated in the pits of my belly, into something inside of me like fired. My daughter is healed. I said it so much, until I felt like a burst of energy, a burst of strength for me to say, get up and fight. I gave him my yes, and he gave me his power.
Wow.
All I needed was your yes. I gave it to him. And from that moment, I knew my daughter was going to be good. When she got her surgery, I was fine. I was walking around talking. We still ain't get insurance yet, but I was walking around. I was happy because she's healed. It's going to work, and everything's going to work out. It's going to work out. The social worker,
to worry about anymore.
I had nothing to worry about because I recited Philippians 4:13 so much that was my everyday.
And that was a total, like you said, a total surrender. I'm giving it to you. Like, I'm giving this to you. There's nothing I can do. I can do nothing but surrender to you.
That's it. Point. I mean, of course, it created a divide in my household, but I didn't care. I'm a mother first. It created a divide. And I'm just like, one of us have to be able to be strong and find the strength for her, because we're not going to be able to get through this on our own. Yeah. And I can't pray in your religion, and you don't want to pray in what I know in my roots. So guess what? We're going to see how this is going to work. And I just kept going and said, God, please give me the strength. Give me the strength. What is it that I should be doing? What is it I should be doing? The social worker came to me 3 days after Anaya's surgery and said, we got you insurance. We got you insurance. She did the paperwork for me so that I can get assistance. I can get Medicaid through the state. I said, okay, listen. She says, here it is. You are approved. The Medicaid, we're going to backdate it from the day Anaya lost coverage. So they backdate the insurance to April 3rd. So that $19,000 went away. I never got a bill.
Wow.
It went away.
Wow.
So I said, okay, I thank you. Let's keep going. She now had to get chemotherapy. And I'm like, all right, we got insurance. We got insurance. Does it cover everything? The social worker said, don't worry about it. And if it doesn't, don't worry about it. We got you coverage. And I didn't worry because I had already gave my yes.
That's
so watching
that,
it just
go ahead.
I did not realize.
To me, this is a surrender. This is like you're telling me this is the picture of what surrender looks like. Because a lot of times we surrender, but we want to try to keep our hands in it, and we want to But this is, to me, like as you're talking, I'm like, this is what surrender looks like. Like I've totally given it to you,
and it is. We have to remember when we surrender and when we tell ourselves, you know what, I want to back away from it and I'm going to give it all to God. We have to be uncomfortable with giving it all. Sometimes we want to micromanage.
We want to control.
You can't do that.
This isn't the way we prayed for it, God. We want you to do it this way.
Right. You can't do that. When you surrender, you got to back away and have complete faith that God is going to handle it. Because if you say, okay, God,
that's the key, in his way.
Right. You can't say, God, I surrender. I'm going to step away, but I needed you to have it look like this. So let me step back in. No.
You're doing it wrong. I need you to do it, God, but you're doing it wrong. I need you to do it this way.
No. You got to take your hands off of it all the way and be okay with the way that he handles it. Because it plays out. Obviously the way that we tried to handle when our hands was on it, it got too messy. So now he got to come in and step in and do the work. No. I need you to break down that moment. I didn't realize it until afterwards. I had to be completely weak and come to him in my weakness and show him, God, I am weak. I can't do it. I have no strength. That's when he thrives the most. Because his power will illuminate when you are at your weakest. And I didn't realize that until he brought me out of that storm.
And that's literally the story, that it's through his strength. Like your whole story is, this is in his strength. I take no credit for anything. And I know like a lot of our moms, say, everybody says you're such a strong mom, and all of our moms say, no, I'm not. I'm doing what I have to do, but I had to trust in God. Yes. I had to trust in his strength. It was not in my strength. It was him who strengthened me. That's been the common theme throughout this month, that it had to be in his strength. Yeah. So talk to me. As you're talking, I know you talked about Anaya being your why in your blog, and I wanted to take the time to ask you more. So what does that mean, that she's your why? And she's the why you went back to school and you got some education about certain things. So talk about you going and getting the education and why and how that has led you to be an advocate for her. Talk about all of that because of her and her being your why.
All right. So Anaya is my why. She is my why. My capital, all caps, WHY. She is my why. And the reason Anaya is my why. So let's fast forward. She's had her surgery. She had her first round of chemo, and the doctors will come in and they will check. We will have to go in before chemo so they can do their assessments, check her out. And they would use terms. I was so ignorant. I was sitting there in that doctor's office and I would just agree because I was too afraid to ask them, what did they mean? What does that term mean? What is that diagnosis? What is that medication? I trusted, like, okay, they have the best interest in my daughter. They are the professionals. They're going to make sure she's okay. I didn't push enough to ask what is going on. I just was like, okay, I agree. Like, all right, yes, we're going to do that. Okay, I'm gonna mark this appointment down. We'll be here for that. And it was to the point where I was like, they're not even talking to, like, they're not having a conversation with me. They're talking at me. They're just throwing a bunch of stuff at me, and I'm just agreeing. And they're not even taking the time to like fully explain it to me. This is all new to me. You know, this is completely new. Like, they've mentioned medications I've never heard of in my life. I don't know the lasting effects of these medications. And I didn't think to even ask. And it was to the point where I started getting frustrated because they give you a guide. When you are a parent of a child with cancer, they give you this big binder that you're supposed to carry around, and it's loaded with information, and some of the information I couldn't even process. It was hard for me to digest because it was like an overload. So I would flip through it some nights, and I was like, I don't know what any of this is. Like, this is hard, and I didn't feel like I was able to have that conversation with her physicians to get further information, because it was just like, hey, nope, this is her chart. This is what it is, and then go on. I made a decision. I said, you know what? I'm going back to school. I enrolled in the midst of working at the daycare, working at a group home so that I can get extra coverage on top of the Medicaid. So now I have 2 jobs. I'm back and forth to Children's Hospital. I enrolled in school. I enrolled in Grand Canyon University, which is a Christian university. And I said, I'm going back to school for my master's degree, and I'm going to specialize in special education because I need to learn about this stuff. I was just general education. I had no intentions on going back to school. Again, God says, hey, not your plan. Trust the process. All right. I trust the process. I'm now in school. Something else added to my plate. And I said, I just got to make it do what it do. I went back. Fast forward, graduated with my master's degree in special education. And while I'm in school being taught everything, I can now enter the doctor's room with confidence. While Naya's hooked up to the machines getting therapy, I'm now having a conversation with these doctors. Well, this is what I read on, and how about you try this? Because I was being taught in school. So while I'm being taught in school on how to not only help my daughter, it was the process of preparing me to go out and help others. I didn't realize how deep it was going to go. I would go in there and say, no, we're not going to do this. Let's have a conversation. What is the lasting effect on this? What is the long-term effect? How will this affect her cognitively? How will this affect her social skills? How will it affect her in her academics? So I was able to go in there with these rigorous questions to ask these physicians, which caused them to now dig a little deeper and go beyond the surface.
That's right.
I'm going to make you work. I'm going to make you like dig in,
research what your response
and
is.
research what you're going to tell me, because we are a team. We make up Anaya's care team. So we are going to have a conversation. You are going to recommend what you think is best for Anaya. I then am going to take that recommendation and consult with her actual physician, God, because I gave her my yes. And if he okayed it, we went back and said, hey, let's start it. I felt so much more confident. I still wasn't fully back in church, but I knew I was doing my reading on my own. I knew that was my plan. Let's go back and pray. I got to pray about it. And when I became so deep into prayer, I watched Anaya hit milestones again. I watched Anaya come out of this. And I said, you know what? I'm not going to stop here with Anaya, because if the physicians are like this with me, they're like this with any other parent that come in this room who's not educated. So I'm going to challenge anybody who comes in contact with my daughter. And that has been my path since then. So I'm now challenging all the doctors, and they like a little challenge. I make their job easier, because I come in with suggestions and recommendations. Well, this is what I'm noticing. How about we try this? Can we do this for 2 weeks? I'm a huge advocate in Anaya's plan. I communicate with her doctors on a regular. I'll use the my chart and say, this med is not working. Can we change this? This is what's going on. How about this? I'm able to tell the doctors what dosage to give my daughter because I did the research. When my daughter got diagnosed with ADHD, they immediately wanted to give her the high dose of her medication. I said, no, you will not. You're going to start her off on this because of her weight. Because of her age and her weight, she can only handle this. And when I feel the need to increase it, I will come back and consult with you, and then you can increase it. So because I became so passionate with my daughter's care, I wanted to do it with everyone else. So I took that passion and that advocacy into my classroom. So when anybody asked me, they was like, Kai, why you go so hard? Because all these babies in my classroom are Anaya. They may not be diagnosed with cancer, but they have something and they don't have a parent that's behind them that may be confident. They may not have the education, and they may not have gone through the storm that I've went through to push them.
So I'm going to use what I've learned
to share and to help every person every child that I come across. Yes.
Listen, we could go on another hour. I'm looking at the time like I can't believe we've run out of time. I'm going to ask you through your whole story, I want you to just leave some closing words of encouragement through your journey, through your process. Tell me what you believe, the why. Again, what would you leave in with other mothers who, regardless of what their situation, what is the universal theme that you could leave for encouragement for our guests tonight?
I will tell all of our guests, regardless of what your child is going through, it may not be childhood cancer. It may be something else. It may be trouble in school. Find your strength within that storm. Your why. The storm may be for you and not for your child. So I want you to tap in to the eye of the storm. And when you go to God, ask him, what is it that you need from me? What should I be doing? Don't ask him, why me? Why is this happening? That's the wrong why. Your outcome from that storm is your why on how you're going to proceed on your journey. Yeah. So just find strength within that storm. And while you're in it, ask God, what should you be doing? And wait patiently. Yeah. I'm telling you, it's a rainbow after every storm.
Yes.
But it's a rainbow after every storm.
But you have to surrender.
You have to surrender. You have to surrender.
That's my takeaway tonight. Go ahead.
I was going to leave with this. 2 Corinthians 12:9-10 says, my grace is sufficient for you. You have to hold on to that. For when I am weak, then I am strong. You have to go to him in the midst of your surrenderance in that storm. You have to pull everything off and show him how weak you are and watch how he show up.
Because when you show up strong, you don't need him.
You don't need him.
When you're working in your own strength, you don't need him. It's in his strength that we become our weakness. We have to really sacrifice and surrender, like you did, sacrifice and surrender your weakness to him, and he responds with his strength.
Yeah.
So that's powerful. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Again,
you're welcome. Kaisha's Thank you for having me.
Yes. Her story will be on faithfieldmoms.org. You have to sign up, make sure, or just go to the website in the morning to read her full story. I know we only touched upon some, we just touched some high level, but just her story is there. It's powerful. I want to thank all of our guests that joined. I saw some comments of Patricia Phillips. I saw you as well, and said she went through some of the same things with her son as well. And I see Tammy on. Thank you for joining, and some others. So thank you all for joining. I see Lisa Hardwick is on as well. Thank you so much for joining us. Such a wonderful advocate for our youth. But again, faithfieldmoms.org, Kaisha's full story will be there tomorrow, bright and early. So just make sure, again, if you have not signed up your email address, You will get that. You will get the links to our show every week. Next week, we close. I can't believe September is almost over. We're closing out our childhood cancer. This has been a phenomenal kickoff to this season. Like I knew and believed that it would be. We just had 4 powerful women. And when I tell you we're closing out with my college friend and soror, Patty Marshall, and her son's Christian story, I'm telling you, it's going to blow you away. It is absolutely going to blow you away. Just such a strong and powerful woman of God I love the humility, as our moms don't always feel strong, and just on the outside looking in, they're just going through and doing whatever that God has brought them to, walking through that. But just to see her story, us to see her story, and just to be able to share, it's going to be wonderful. So we invite you to come back and close out our childhood cancer month. Kaisha, again, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you. Thank you to all our guests who joined us as well. And those that are watching in the future, we hope you enjoyed the program, and we will see you next week. God bless and take care.
Bye.